State Secretary, prize winners, and members of the jury, dear audience, there is no Nobel Peace Prize for free speech. It nevertheless seems appropriate that we are gathered here today in this hall of the Norwegian Nobel Institute as the civil courage and achievements of the Nobel Prize winners are to a high degree dependent on freedom of expression. The outstanding laureates now in this room today deserve a special recognition and respect for their sheer courage and journalistic competence. Each and one of them have their own striking history as journalists or editors, and this will be highlighted today. As you all know, the East European Press Awards are based on a very close cooperation between a German and a Norwegian foundation, between Hamburg and Oslo. I therefore just want to emphasize on behalf of the board of Fritt Ord how stimulating it is for us to take part in this exchange with one of the most professional of European foundations in the field of culture, media, and social development. A warm thank to you, Mikael Göring of the Zeit-Stiftung. Facing our societies today is not only the enforced limitations on free speech, but also corruption, abuses of human rights, the steady rise of xenophobia, hate speech, and incitement to violence against minorities. There is a need for investigative journalism related to domestic and foreign policy. Our laureates have much to say about all of these features. So there will be speeches, more music, and after the ceremony, a well-deserved buffet lunch for everyone. And now I turn to you, Gry Larsen, State Secretary of the Foreign Ministry. You have for many years taken a personal interest in these vital questions for the world community. So we are very honored that you will open this award ceremony for us. The floor is yours.
Honored laureates, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor for me to be able to be here today and to have been invited to this prestigious event here at the Nobel Institute. Last time the award was awarded in Oslo, Minister of Foreign Affairs at that time, Mr. Jonas Gahr Støre, had the honor of greeting the winners. And today, I have the privilege of following up on that tradition. This year, the laureates, as you all know, come from Russia, Azerbaijan, and Ukraine. And without interfering in the work of the jury, because as a state representative, we should not interfere in the work of a jury, in my view, the jury has once again made a very good decision. The jury has chosen laureates who in different ways and under severe pressure have promoted free speech in their own countries. And the laureates know better than many others what freedom of expression really means. Indeed, some of them take serious personal risks when executing their work. You are extremely brave, and you are an inspiration to all of us that believe in the value of freedom of expression. We all know that journalists in many countries are threatened, imprisoned, and even killed just for doing their job, using their pen, computer, their mobile phone, camera, or microphone. All states are responsible for the safety of their peoples, including journalists, of course, but we also know that not all states take this responsibility as seriously as they should. Sadly, there are still many countries around the world in which governments stifle dissent and criticism or fail to prevent other groups from targeting the media. There are also many examples of violence and other human rights violations against journalists occurring with impunity. Dear friends, this is one of the reasons why Norway have made freedom of expression a key priority in Norway's human rights policy. The reason for that is not only that freedom of expression is a cornerstone of any democracy, but also the fact that it is essential for the realization of other fundamental freedoms and rights, be they freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, or the right to have access to information. It is therefore very worrying that restrictions on freedom of expression and threats to journalists are still common in many countries, even in Europe. In practice, freedom of expression is frequently restricted through tactics that include restrictions on use and information, restrictive press legislation, threats, intimidation, and physical attacks on journalists, bloggers, and others who voice their opinions. We also see the use of censorship, control, and surveillance of the various channels people use to express themselves. The contemporary challenges to freedom of expression are manifold. And in addition to censorship and surveillance challenges, the concentration of media ownership, for example through mergers, may also serve to restrict expression and the exchange of opinions. Moreover, in the present situation, with the financial crisis, many media companies and publishing houses are hit hard during the last years. And all of these trends may indicate that the space for freedom of expression is not increasing, but is in fact diminishing. And that worries us a lot. As you all know, the last years, much attention has been given to the way in which new technologies provide new and enhanced opportunities for expression. Social media enable individuals to express themselves, to form a platform for their opinions and share them with the world, as you know, instantly. But with every novelty, however, come regulations. And as the new technologies have developed, so too has the ability to monitor, to filter, to censor, and also to block them. The potential for communication brought about by the internet is matched only by its potential as a surveillance tool. In many countries, surveillance of human rights defenders and journalists have been well documented. And this is totally unacceptable. We intend to maintain our focus on this issue in the coming years. Sometimes we forget that in countries where independent journalism carries risks, the journalists most exposed are not only found in the capital cities and the national media. Journalists working outside the capitals and addressing local issues may often be in an even more exposed position. Therefore, I am very pleased that one of the prize winners we are honoring today is Tahmina Tagizade. an independent journalist who has been working in the provincial town of Ganja and the surrounding region in northern Azerbaijan. Undeterred by reprisals, Tahmina has for many years been carrying on her important journalistic work, addressing local as well as national issues. She deserves great recognition for her courage and perseverance. Along with Tahmina, the independent North Siberian newspaper Yakutsk Vecherniy is a very fine example of journalistic bravery taking place far away from capital cities. The journalists of the newspaper and its editor, Maria Ivanova, have the courage to raise issues such as environmental hazards, corruption, human rights, democracy, and freedom of expression. And the brave work and integrity of these journalists who live and write more than 8,000 kilometers away from Moscow is both impressive and inspiring. The young and innovative Russian journalist Elena Kostyuchenko has been assaulted and arrested for her brave journalistic work. This does not keep her from continuing to cover environmental issues, corruption and prostitution, or from steadfastly defending the rights of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender persons. Elena, who is creative in her use of the internet and blogging, was also the first journalist to write about the trial of the punk rock collective Bucerius. An outstanding journalist is not afraid of pursuing sensitive issues. Alexander Golts is one of these outstanding journalists. He has been promoting openness and sharing his analysis of military issues in Russia for over 25 years. Alexander is an influential commentator on civil-military affairs. We have all heard the saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Nowhere could this be more the case than in journalism. Photojournalism is an essential dimension of the freedom of the press. It is very appropriate that one of this year's prizes goes to the young Azerbaijani photojournalist Mehman Huseynov. I am very sad that Mehman is not able to be present here today. If I've understood it correctly, he was not allowed to leave his home country by the authorities. I was surprised and deeply saddened to learn this. But I'm all the more delighted that his mother is present. So, Mrs. Huseynova, you have every reason to be very proud of your son. His pictures and recordings provide striking images of various aspects of today's Azerbaijan. As Mehman has personally experienced, the power of images carries the same risks as the power of critical words. And it is no less important. Today's prize is well-deserved recognition of the significance of his work. Even in a country like Ukraine, critical journalism requires courage. As one of the best investigative journalists in the country, Sergey Leschenko does not shrink from shedding critical light on issues that challenge the personal interests of powerful figures and entities. Exposing corruption among the elite is just one example. The media situation in Ukraine is characterized by strong private and political interests dominating media ownership. An essential counterbalance to these interests is provided in strong, independent, individual journalists and media outlets that report in an open and critical manner on political and economic issues. Sergey is an outstanding representative of this group and one of those who have on a daily basis helped uphold the freedom of the press in Ukraine. Honored laureates, please continue your important work. Please do not lose courage when you are confronted with new obstacles. Please go on exercising your right to freedom of expression. And I wish you every success in your extremely important work. Thank you.
Dear Secretary of State, Larsen, dear Grete Brochmann, Eric Rudeng, dear Elena Kostyuchenko, Alexander Golts, Vyacheslav Levin, Arnis Lazev, Sergey Leschenko, Tahmina Tagizade, Madame Firangis Hanam Huseynova, mother of Mehman Huseynov, who was, as we know, not able to come. He was not allowed to leave Azerbaijan for this ceremony. Dear ladies and gentlemen, my name is Michael Göring. I am in charge of the Zeit Foundation in Hamburg. It is always an honor and a joy to hold the awards ceremony for our Gerd Bucerius Prizes Free Press in Eastern Europe, along with the Institutionen Fritt Ord Prizes Free Press in Russia, here at the Nobel Institute. The reasons are simple. Norway is a land that values its newspapers. The Norwegians are among the most avid readers of newspapers in the world. Norway ranks among the best nations in the world when it comes to guaranteeing the freedom of its press, the freedom of media. And above all, Norway is the land of our partner organization, our friends at Institutionen Fritt Ord. The collaboration between our two organizations is simply excellent. We are quite simply very well matched. Institutionen Fritt Ord, founded by the Norwegian kiosk company, and the Zeit-Stiftung, founded by the publisher, most of you will know, Die Zeit, the publisher, the lawyer, and the politician, Gerd Bucerius, who himself experienced the danger of the free, independent voice during the Third Reich and, strangely enough, again in the 1960s, when an article appeared in one of his journals, an article with the title, "Is There Really Fire in Hell?" And he was asked by the Chancellor Adenauer, and the Chancellor was not amused about this article, because he thought this article was anti-Catholic and anti-CDU. And Bucerius was a member of the CDU party in parliament in those days. So they had a quarrel, and at the end, Bucerius decided to leave parliament, to give back his seat as an MP, and even to give back his party affiliation to the Christian Democratic Union. Quite a loss for the party, but quite a big sense of encouragement and of the right values on the side of Gerd Bucerius. So since 2004, we have now jointly awarded the prizes for Eastern European journalists and media. We each use our own networks to encourage nominations, and all our embassies in Eastern Europe help us with that, and then select the most worthy recipients for each year. In the year 2000, when we at the Zeit-Stiftung established the prize named after our founder Gerd Bucerius, it was our intention to encourage the newly emerging free press in those states that had formerly been part of the Soviet Union. We wanted to lend a helping hand to the process of transformation that would ultimately result in an independent media landscape. In 2004, we found a congenial partner in Fritt Ord and formed an international collaboration between foundations that has stood the test of time. I'm very grateful to be able to say that the partnership developed into a deep friendship. Both foundations are supported by a very competent and highly engaged international selection committee and by a number of equally competent and highly engaged regional desk offices. My thanks go to you. Initially, the representatives of both foundations expected that the free press prices, after a transitional period in Eastern Europe, would gradually become obsolete. Today, this is far from being the case. If we look at the current state of affairs concerning freedom of expression, freedom of the media, the picture is rather bleak. In all too many countries, harassments of journalists, including personal attacks and even persecution, are a daily occurrence. In 2012, last year, 133 journalists were killed in line of their professional work. My source for this figure is the EPE, a German institute called Internationales Presseinstitut. 133. This is the highest number of victims to date in this very sad and deplorable record. Our prize winner of 2010, Mikhail Bechertoff, died on April the 8th this year after much suffering. We hold today's ceremony partly in Mikhail's memory. In view of the precarious state of the freedom of the press worldwide, the Board of Trustees of the Zeit-Stiftung has recently decided to extend the prize scheme for a further 3 years up until 2016. And we are happy to announce today that the Institutionen Fritt Ord, along with the selection committee and the regional desk offices, will also continue their support for the next 3 years. It is with mixed feelings that I announce these 3 more years. It would be far better if we could discontinue the prize and go for another prize, a different prize. If we could discontinue the prize scheme because threats to the freedom of the press, to the freedom of the expression, has abated, and repression had become a thing of the past. But as I pointed out, unfortunately, we are far away from that situation. Media today are not only facing increased economic pressures, but new developments within the media also pose threats to the freedom of the press. The operative word is digitization. Added to that, there are many political transformations that invariably pose social challenges. Hungary is just one example, but a most obvious and frightening one. We need to take a stand in places where free speech is not welcome because it brings to light social injustice, corruption, and nepotism as a result of thorough research conducted by independent journalists who wish to share with us their view of the world and their search for truth. We must remember that every attack on the freedom of the media is an attack on civil society. I know that my fellow foundation and committee members at both Zeit-Stiftung and Fritt Ord share this belief. We are here today to pay tribute to the prize winners, to their courage, their love of freedom, and their tireless work for the freedom of expression. Thank you very much.
Dear prize winners from Azerbaijan, from Russia and Ukraine, from Ganja and Baku, from Moscow and Yakutsk in Siberia, from Kiev. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, please allow me to say some words on behalf of the jury, that is of the awards committee of our 2 organizations, of Fritt Ord Foundation and the Zeit Foundation. Theo Sommer, who is the chairman of our committee, would very much have liked to address this meeting. However, he wanted to be present at the wedding of his son today, and I think this is quite understandable, all the more so since bridegrooms, as we all know, always need support on such an important day. Dear friends, the times we are living in are difficult. Of course, they always have been difficult. Nevertheless, to my mind, in the past few years, difficulties, obstacles, and problems have been growing. Here and there, and maybe this characterizes the present situation, you can hear people quoting the immortal verses of William Butler Yeats: "Things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity." Well, I think we have not come yet that far. Yes, there are signs of anarchy in many places of the world. And yes, there are people with bad intentions who indeed are full of passionate intensity, and good people who lack conviction. This is, however, not the overall picture. In any case, one thing to my mind is clear. You, the winners of our common Norwegian-German award, belong to the best in your field, and you definitely do not lack conviction. On the contrary, you're full of conviction. You're acting from conviction. You're convinced that what your country needs, what your fellow countrymen need, are journalists who report what they see, and obstacles and difficulties notwithstanding, write what they know to be the truth and act accordingly. This is what we, the members of the awards committee, saw when we received the proposals from all those organizations and all those people who know about our award and who, moreover, know about your work, your writings, and your courage. We were provided with examples of your work. We received copies of your articles, of your newspapers. With the assistance of our country experts, whom I would like to thank here for so devotedly helping us all the time, we were able to study your work. And we soon came to know that apart from your professional qualities, which you all have, you share one important insight, which your governments obviously do not have, that the principal resource of your countries, in particular of Russia and Azerbaijan, is not raw materials, is not oil and gas. The most valuable commodity your countries have is human resources, the many talented people your societies possess. These are the main assets, and they are the future of your countries. But in order to flourish, one thing is needed first and foremost: freedom. Freedom, the principal human rights and civil liberties, are guaranteed in the constitution of your countries. Indeed. But to put it like this, the guarantee of someone's right written on paper, even if this happens to be the constitution, is one thing. It is quite another whether it is possible to exercise these rights in everyday life. You all who are being honored today are taking the constitution of your country at its word. And in doing so, you are constantly attempting to put the constitution to life. This is not easy, to put it mildly. Only someone who is familiar with the situation of your countries you are coming from is able to fully appreciate what it means for you to work under the present conditions, to write what you see and to write what you think, and then to publish it. All the members of the awards committee and all our supporting experts have been keen students of your countries, have partly worked there, speak their language. In other words, we and they all know what it means to be a journalist in your countries in these difficult times. From this perspective, it is a rewarding task for us, coming from Norway, Denmark, and Germany, to serve as members on the awards committee, on the jury, as we call it, and to have had the opportunity to contribute to your receiving the award Free Press in Eastern Europe and in Russia for the year 2013. One word at the end with regard to Belarus. Some of you may have wondered why there is no newspaper from this country among this year's prize winners. We had worthy candidates, however, the proposals just did not meet the formal requirements of our award. We all agree that the media and the journalists in Belarus are in urgent need of encouragement. So with a view to Belarus, we are thinking of adapting the requirements of our award to the specific conditions of this country. Let me conclude by thanking the Fritt Ord Foundation and the Zeit Foundation for entrusting us with choosing the journalists and newspapers worthy of the award. I would, moreover, like to extend our thanks to all those people and organizations which made proposals, very many of them, by the way, coming from Norway. Without them, we would not have been able to do our work. Last but not least, let me express our gratitude to Fritt Ord Foundation for organizing the awards ceremony in this famous and fabulous hall of the Nobel Institute. We are overwhelmed indeed by the atmosphere and are grateful indeed for being able to present the awards here in this historic settings. Finally, I would like to thank you, the prize winners, for giving us the opportunity to find you and to make the right proposals with regard to the awards you are receiving today. Since you all understand Russian, we can only ask you, держитесь, hold on, hold it. Мы с вами, we are with you, vi är sammen med er.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, after these important and encouraging words of Falk Bohmsdorf, we come now to the central and also very encouraging part of our ceremony, to the handing over of the awards to the prize winners. Fritt Ord Foundation and the Zeit Foundation press prizes for 2013 go to 2 journalists and a weekly newspaper from Russia, to a journalist from Ukraine, and to a journalist and a photojournalist from Azerbaijan. Elena Kostyuchenko is one of the most talented younger investigative journalists in Russia. She has worked for the Novaya Gazeta since she was 17 years old. And she also has her own blog. She covers an impressive variety of topics, ranging from the case of Mikhail Beketov, also a prize winner, and the Khimki forest in the north of Moscow, to the massacre at Khrushchevskaya. She writes about the lives of prostitutes who work along the highways, and about youth groups residing in neglected, abandoned hospitals. Elena Kostyuchenko is not only an unfearful journalist, she's also, as was already mentioned, a lion-hearted activist for gay rights. Elena Kostyuchenko was nominated by the Norwegian Helsinki Committee and by the Human Rights House Foundation, Oslo, as well as by Ilya Krieger, editor in Moscow. The award is accompanied by a prize amount of 10,000 euro. Our second prize winner from Russia is Alexander Golts. Alexander Golts is a political commentator and acting editor-in-chief of a critical online newspaper, Vecherniy Journal. He is an outstanding communicator on the armed forces, which is sensitive terrain for a journalist to navigate in Russia, even more after the passing of the last laws on traitors of the fatherland, which have been passed just some months ago. Despite years of resistance and attacks, Alexander Golts has continued to abide by the principle of remaining faithful to the facts. His strength lies in his analytical presentations. The deeply appreciated articles of Alexander Golts about the evolution of Russian domestic and foreign policy are available in English also on the Moscow Times website. Alexander Golts was nominated by Klaus-Helge Donath, a Russia correspondent for the German newspaper Taz. The award is also accompanied by a prize amount of 10,000 euro. The weekly newspaper Yakutsk Vecherniy has been published since 1994 in the Yakutsk region of northern Siberia. The bold, from 80 to 120 pages weekly regional newspaper covers topics ranging from environmental destruction to corruption. In the winter of 2011-2012, the newspaper sent its own correspondent to Moscow to cover the demonstrations in the capital city. Before that, the newspaper opposed raising a memorial to Stalin in the city. In 2005, the weekly newspaper sued the city administration for overly hard taxation of a citizenship. The newspaper is embroiled in several court cases, and its journalists are used to state agencies' attempts to control them. So we understand the activity of the newspaper goes far behind regular journalism, but is a contribution to citizens' activity. Yakutsk Vecherniy was nominated by Moritz Gatman in Moscow. The award is accompanied by a prize amount of 20,000 euro. Sergey Leschenko from Kiev is one of the best investigative journalists in Ukraine. He writes for the online newspaper Ukrainska Pravda, where he is also the acting editor. Leschenko is one of the most active bloggers in the same newspaper. You can read his blogs on the website of Ukrainska Pravda. He files detailed reports on matters such as corruption among power elite. In connection with the preparation to the Soccer World Championship in 2012, he wrote a number of critical articles about the intransparent procurement procedures. As a journalist, he is impartial, giving precedence to objective descriptions. He has a firm grasp on the political situation in Ukraine and maintains the necessary distance from both the government and the opposition. Sergey Leschenko was nominated by Heike Dörrenbecher, director of the German Association for Eastern European Studies in Berlin. The award is accompanied by a prize amount of 10,000 euro. Tahmina Tagizade is an independent, experienced journalist from the provincial town of Ganja and the surrounding region in northern Azerbaijan. She has championed the rights of the general public, often at great cost to her personally. Despite reprisals on the part of a conservative, authoritarian administration, Tagizade continues the pursuit of her journalistic activities. For years, Tahmina Tagizade has been a coordinator, journalist, and editor at the Ganja Media Center. She is currently working for Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberties, Azerbaijani service, Radio Azadlik, as a Václav Havel Journalism Fellow, and also for the website Civil Forum AZ, where she is also video editor. Tahmina Tagizade was nominated by the German embassy in Baku, and the award is also accompanied by a prize amount of 10,000 euro. The second prize winner from Azerbaijan is Mehman Huseynov. Mehman Huseynov is not in Oslo today, he's still in Baku. Mehman was banned from leaving the country. He was not allowed to take the prize here personally in Oslo. The jury of the Press Prize deeply regrets and condemns this decision of the Azerbaijan authorities, who assess it as another effort to restrict freedom of movement and freedom of expression in Azerbaijan's citizens. Mehman Huseynov is a photojournalist. His expressive photos and videos depict different aspects of Azerbaijan. His documentation of the demolition of homes in connection with the Eurovision Song Contest in Baku in 2012 was deeply appreciated by the public, but also caused him to be detained for hooliganism 1 year ago. He was released, but more serious charges were brought against him a few days later. Huseynov has his own YouTube channel and works for the Institute for Reporters' Freedom and Safety and for the Turan News Agency. Mehman Huseynov was nominated by the journalist Samin Hachif of Baku. The award is accompanied by a prize of 10,000 euro, and I'm very glad that the mother of Mehman Huseynov, Ms. Frangis Huseynova, is here and will take the prize for her son. In the name of the jury, I wish all the best for the future work of our awardees, and we're very happy that you came here.
It's now a pleasure for me to introduce Alexander Golts, who will talk on behalf of the laureates. Please.
First of all, on behalf of laureates, let me express my tremendous gratitude to Fritt Ord Foundation and Zeit-Stiftung Foundation for jury. All of them choose us, and we are very, very proud of this. My special thanks to those who choose the place. Believe me, in my most wild dreams, I cannot believe that one day come and I will address people in Nobel Institute in Oslo. Third, let me express our great gratitude unbelievable gratitude to our beloved people, our wives, our relatives, such as my wife Albina. Their support in very difficult situation is fundamental for all of us. As it was mentioned above, the fact that such prize exists shows the rather abnormal situation in our country with freedom of expression, with freedom of speech. Situation in Russia, in my reading, is a little bit unique because these human and political rights abuse in my country have clear international dimension. That's why I want to speak today about Russian foreign policy. A recent summit of G8 showed that Russia foreign policy became the real obstacle in decision-making process of the countries. Even more, a lot of foreign observers ask from time to time, what are the rational reasons for such kind of policy? Why Russia is so concentrated on hard security and support of different authoritarian leaders? Big questions. In my mind, Russian foreign policy more and more became enigma wrapped in mystery, if you remember Mr. Churchill. So let us try to understand the basic principles of this policy. And at this particular point, I want to switch on Russian. Существует несколько основных принципов. Надо сказать, что российская внешняя политика довольно принципиальна. И есть несколько базовых принципов этой внешней политики. Первое – реалполитик. Но это не цивилизованный реалполитик Генри Киссинджера. Это примитивный реалполитик XIX века, где в концерте держав союзы создаются не на основе ценностей, а на основе сиюминутных интересов, где каждый ведет борьбу с другим в игре с нулевой суммой. Это реалполитик, где все средства хороши, и главная цель – ослабить партнера. Второй принцип, который набирает все большую силу, это очевидный фатализм. Российские власти, как их предшественники из советского политбюро 70-х годов, искренне верят, что нефтяное благосостояние будет длиться вечно. И именно это даст им проводить политику, которую они называют суверенной. Кроме того, то, что никто не смог предсказать экономический кризис, убедило их в том, что мир вообще непредсказуем. И, может быть, об этом много и настойчиво говорит министр иностранных дел России Сергей Лавров, может быть, будущие катаклизмы непредсказуемого мира обернутся тем, что Россия вновь вернет себе статус супердержавы. Это странная логика, что в результате непредсказуемого мира мы сможем все начать с чистого листа. Повторю, это странная логика. Это логика игрока в казино, а не аналитика. Важнейший постулат российской внешней политики. Ценностей не существует. Демократии нет нигде. В чем, собственно говоря, разница между Россией, Сирией и западными государствами? Да они просто изощреннее, если говорить о западных государствах. В США, в Западной Европе власти научились блестяще манипулировать общественным сознанием. Мы не такие изощренные, мы попроще, Поэтому нам нужна избирательная комиссия, и господин Чуров, которого тогдашний, это председатель избирательной комиссии, которого тогдашний президент России господин Медведев после проведения выборов назвал волшебником, и заслуженно. А сирийцы не могут даже так, поэтому для того, чтобы разобраться с собственным народом, требуются танки. Вот логика, которой руководствуется российская власть. Поэтому я еще раз повторю, что проблема демократии в России имеет совершенно очевидное международное измерение, потому что в этой логике российская власть свято верит, что все цветные революции в мире, и то, что было на Украине, и то, что было в Грузии, и арабская весна, все это результат коварных действий ЦРУ, Ми-6, Госдепа США и так далее. Поэтому главная цель российской внешней политики – это спастись от цветной революции. Цель, не имеющая ничего общего с реальностью. Цель, которая формулирована неким параноидальным страхом перед надвигающимися неизвестными временами. И здесь мы подходим к чрезвычайно важному моменту. Почему тот вопрос, который я задал в начале, почему Россия так сконцентрирована на вопросах военной безопасности? Посмотрите, главные темы внешней политики России – противостояние американской системе противоракетной обороны. Единственный, если не главный вопрос, который обсуждается – ядерные вооружения, баланс вооружений в Европе. Кого, кроме России, на сегодняшний день волнует баланс вооружений в Европе? Однако это главная тема, на которой настаивают российские представители. Я думаю, часто говорят о том, что вот такой подход – это результат последствий холодной войны. Вот не излечились еще русские от этого мышления холодной войны. Я думаю, что такая трактовка не совсем правильна. Вспомним речь господина Путина в Мюнхене, которую многие восприняли как объявление холодной войны. Я думаю, его тогда неправильно прочли. Ключевым в этой речи было то, что он сказал, что после Второй мировой войны в результате баланса сил была стабильность в отношении между Москвой и Западом. И после 2007 года произошло абсолютно искусственное возвращение к повестке дня 80-х годов. Противоракетная оборона. Помните «Звездные войны» Рейгана? Договор о общеевропейской безопасности. Помните, что именно в 90-е годы был заключен договор об обычных вооружениях в Европе. Возвращение к договору о ракетах средней дальности и так далее. Это повестка дня искусственным образом, возвращенная повестка дня 80-х годов. Я чувствую себя на 30 лет моложе. Зачем это делается? Не для того, чтобы нагнетать, не потому, что Россия верит в военное сдерживание. Это попытка занять западные державы старой доброй игрой в подсчет боеголовок. С тем, чтобы у них не появилось глупого желания устроить в России оранжевую революцию. Ну, надо сказать, что господин Путин, повторю, чрезвычайно успешен на этом направлении, поскольку многие западные партнеры с удовольствием восприняли эту игру, и действительно Соединенные Штаты до бесконечности обсуждают с Россией проблемы противоракетной обороны. Сегодня это главный вопрос, и совершенно понятно, что никакого позитивного результата из этого не получится, потому что цель России – не достижение договоренностей, цель – продолжение, как можно дольше продолжение бессмысленных переговоров, которые, помимо того, что отвлекают западных партнеров, к тому же обеспечивают, опять-таки, с точки зрения кремлевских стратегов, России демонстрацию всему миру, насколько Россия мощная, авторитетная держава. Смотрите, самая мощная держава мира, Соединенные Штаты, ведет с Россией бесконечные переговоры и признает тем самым факт, что Россия та единственная страна, которая может ее уничтожить. Есть чем гордиться. Этим же боязнью и страхом перед цветными революциями объясняется и поддержка, например, сирийского режима. Здесь Путин и его коллеги вполне себе принципиальны. Они не потому, что России нужна база в Тартусе, и не потому, что их так уж волнуют оружейные контракты, заключенные в Сирии. Нет. Вопрос принципиальный. Цветные революции – это результат иностранного вмешательства. Иностранное вмешательство недопустимо. Нужно обеспечить любому авторитарному лидеру делать все, что он хочет со своим народом. Это принципиальный подход, и Россия его принципиально защищает. Я думаю, та политика умиротворения России, которая в последнее время очевидным образом берет верх на Западе, в Соединенных Штатах, ну, известные уступки по противоракетной обороне, когда высокопоставленные российские аналитики говорили, вот 4-я фаза ПРО – это чрезвычайно опасная вещь. Вот стоит американцам отказаться, и ситуация будет совсем другой. Американцы отказались. На следующий день Россия выставила новые условия. И даже если случится чудо, и американцы примут все российские условия, все равно на следующий день появятся новые. По одной простой причине. Американцы могут дать, наверное, они могут дать даже гарантии не нападения, не использования ПРО против России. Они не могут дать главной гарантии, которая так нужна путинскому правительству, а именно гарантии того, что в Москве никогда не будет протестов. Это невозможно. А именно такая гарантия, в принципе, является целью, получение такой гарантии является целью путинской внешней политики. Я, честно говоря, очень скептически настроен относительно будущего этой политики. Ведь фактически, по мере того, как она продвигается, в этом реалполитик остается все меньше реализма. Спасибо.